The day my father died, I was in his office reviewing quarterly projections for Sterling Innovations' new medical device division. Numbers had always been my sanctuary: clean, precise, unchangeable. Unlike people, spreadsheets never lied or played favorites. Mr. Sterling wants to see the Q3 estimates, his secretary, Martha, said, poking her head in. She'd been calling him Mr. Sterling instead of your father since my first day at the company. Professionalism, she'd explained, was everything. Almost done, I replied, double-checking my calculations. The medical division was my baby, a project I'd spent 3 years developing. The projections looked promising, a 40% growth rate, conservative estimates showing potential revenue of $50 million by year's end. I never got to show him those numbers. The heart attack hit during his afternoon tennis match. By the time I reached the hospital, Sarah had already arrived, designer heels clicking against sterile tiles as she paced the waiting room. My sister always did have perfect timing. Finally decided to show up. She snapped, barely glancing at me. "Where were you?" "Working," I said quietly. "At the office, where you haven't been in months." She waved her hand dismissively. "Some of us have lives outside that dusty building, Madison." That dusty building was Sterling Innovations' headquarters, the company our grandfather had founded and our father had built into a billion-dollar enterprise. Sarah treated it like a trust fund, showing up for board meetings and important client dinners, but leaving the actual work to others, mainly to me. The doctor's arrival cut short our brewing argument. His expression told us everything before he spoke a word. "I'm very sorry," he began, and the world tilted sideways. The next few days passed in a blur of funeral arrangements, condolence calls, and board meetings. I handled most of it, working through my grief the only way I knew how: by keeping busy. Sarah spent her time entertaining relatives and giving tearful interviews to business magazines about carrying on our father's legacy. The will reading was scheduled for a week after the funeral. I sat in our family lawyer's office, the same leather chair I'd occupied during countless childhood visits with Dad. Mr. Patterson, who'd handled Sterling legal affairs for 30 years, looked uncomfortable as he shuffled his papers. "As you know," he began, "your father updated his will recently, just 2 months ago, in fact." I nodded. Dad had mentioned wanting to get his affairs in order, though he'd seemed healthy as ever. "The bulk of his personal estate will be divided equally between you both," Mr. Patterson continued. "The house, investments, art collection, all split 50-50. Sarah smiled, probably already mentally redecorating the Manhattan penthouse. However, the lawyer cleared his throat regarding Sterling Innovations. My heart stopped. Dad and I had discussed this. Just last month, we talked about my 5-year plan for the company over dinner. He'd seemed excited about my vision for expanding the medical division, even proud. Control of the company, including the position of CEO and chairperson of the board, will pass to Sarah Sterling. The words hit like physical blows. Sarah's triumphant gasp barely registered through the roaring in my ears. "There must be some mistake," I managed. "Dad and we had plans. The medical division is specifically addressed." Mr. Patterson cut in gently. "Your father left instructions that all current projects should be reviewed by the new CEO for viability." Sarah's smile turned predatory. "Don't worry, little sister. I'll give your pet project all the attention it deserves." I sat there numb as Mr. Patterson continued reading. The details washed over me: voting shares, board positions, corporate structure. All I could think about was Dad's voice during our last dinner. The medical division could change lives, Madison. It's exactly the kind of innovation Sterling needs. Had it all been lies? The next morning, I arrived at the office early. As usual, my security badge still worked, though I wondered how long that would last. The medical division team was waiting for my morning briefing. 15 brilliant engineers and researchers who trusted my vision. I heard about the will reading, Martha said softly as I passed her desk. I'm so sorry, Madison. I managed a weak smile. Thanks, Martha. Has she arrived yet? 3rd floor. Moving into the executive office already. Of course she was. Sarah never wasted time claiming what she thought was hers. I made it through the briefing somehow, focusing on technical details and development timelines. My team knew something was wrong, but they were kind enough not to ask. These people had followed me, believed in me. What would happen to them now? The answer came sooner than expected. Madison. Sarah's voice cut through the quiet hum of the engineering floor. She stood in the doorway of our research lab, looking absurdly out of place in her camel suit. We need to talk. I followed her to what had been Dad's office. She'd already replaced his degrees and family photos with modern art pieces. His old leather chair, worn from years of late nights and important decisions, was gone, replaced by something sleek and strong. I've been reviewing the numbers, she said, perching on her new throne. The medical division is hemorrhaging money. It's a development phase, I explained, fighting to keep my voice steady. The projections show whatever you want them to show. She tossed a folder onto the desk, my carefully prepared reports. This isn't what Sterling Innovations needs right now. We're streamlining operations, focusing on our core business. Core business? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad always said innovation was our core business. It's literally in our name. Dad isn't here anymore. Sarah's voice turned cold, and frankly, neither should you be. I stared at her, this stranger wearing my sister's face. What are you saying? I'm saying you're fired, Madison. Clear out your office by the end of the day. Security will escort you out. The world seemed to stop. You can't do this. I built that division from nothing. Those people trust me. Those people, she cut in, work for Sterling Innovations, my company now. And you, she smiled, the same smile she'd used when stealing my toys as children. You're worthless to this company. Always have been, really. Playing with your little projects while I learned how business really works. By partying with board members and kissing up to investors. I shot back. When's the last time you actually developed anything? Development is for employees, she said dismissively. Leadership is about vision, and my vision doesn't include you. I stood there, hands shaking, as decades of competition and resentment crystallized into this moment. Dad believed in me, I said quietly. Dad pitied you, Sarah replied. Why do you think he left me in charge? Now get out of my office before I call security. I walked out with my head high, past Martha's tearful face, past my confused team members, past the security guard who'd known me since I was a child. One box of personal items, family photos, engineering awards, the prototype of my first patented device. A life's work reduced to a cardboard box. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A message from an unknown number. Meet me at Joe's Diner tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone. There's something you need to know about your father's safe. I stared at the message, wondering if grief was making me hallucinate. Dad's safe. The old one in his home office? Sarah would have cleaned that out already, along with everything else. But what did I have to lose? Little did I know, that message would change everything. But first, I had to survive the longest night of my life, alone with the knowledge that I'd lost not just my father, but my life's work and my last connection to the company he built. I drove home in a daze, the box of memories beside me, feeling both too heavy and too light. Tomorrow would bring answers, or more questions. For now, all I could do was wonder, what secret could be worth all this pain? Joe's Diner sat on the corner of 5th and Pine, a relic from a time before Sterling innovations dominated the city skyline. Dad used to bring me here for chocolate milkshakes after school, before board meetings became more important than father-daughter time. I arrived early, sliding into a worn leather booth with a clear view of both entrances. Old habits die hard. Dad always said a good executive watches their exits. At exactly 3 p.m., Martha walked in. "You?" I straightened in surprise. Dad's secretary. No, Sarah's secretary now. Looked different outside the office. More determined, less deferential. "Your father knew this day might come," she said, sitting across from me. "He made me promise to wait until the right moment." "What moment?" She pulled an envelope from her bag. "The moment your sister showed her true colors." Inside the envelope was a single key and a handwritten note in Dad's familiar scrawl. "West Wall, behind the Monet. December 14, 1989. Dad's old safe. I breathed. But Sarah must have opened it already. Martha smiled. "That's what she thinks. Your father had 2 safes in his study. The obvious one, behind his desk, that's where he kept standard documents, things he expected people to find. But the real safe, his private safe." She tapped the key. "Only 3 people knew about it. Him, me, and now you." "Why you?" "Because I've been more than just a secretary for 30 years, Madison. I was your father's most trusted confidant. I knew things about Sterling Innovations that even the board doesn't know." My mind raced. December 14, 1989. Why was that date familiar? "The day Sterling Innovations went public," Martha supplied, reading my expression. "Also the day your mother left." The memory hit hard. I was 6, Sarah 10. Mom walked out during Dad's IPO celebration, leaving nothing but a note and a lifetime of trust issues. "What's in the safe?" "I don't know," Martha admitted. "But your father said if anything happened to him, if Sarah ever tried to push you out, I should make sure you found it." She glanced at her watch. "Sarah's in board meetings all afternoon. The house will be empty." I gripped the key tightly. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I watched you grow up in that company. While Sarah was partying through college, you were interning in the labs. When she was dating board members' sons, you were filing patents. You are your father's daughter, Madison, his true heir." She stood up. "The company needs you. More than anyone knows." 20 minutes later, I let myself into my childhood home. Everything felt different, colder somehow, as if Sarah's presence had already begun erasing decades of memories. The study was exactly as Dad had left it, probably the only room Sarah hadn't changed yet. The Monet, an original, worth millions, hung innocently on the west wall. With trembling fingers, I lifted it. There, almost invisible against the wood paneling, was a seam. The key fit perfectly. Inside the wall safe were 3 items: a thick manila envelope, a USB drive, and a smaller envelope with Sarah's name on it. I opened the manila envelope first. Inside was a detailed report from a private investigator, dated 6 months ago. My hands shook as I read. Subject: Sarah Sterling investigation confirms systematic embezzlement from Sterling Innovations Medical Research Fund. Estimated total, $28.7 million. Funds traced to offshore accounts and real estate purchases under alias Jennifer Blake. Photos spilled out. Sarah meeting with shady lawyers. Documents showing money transfers. Property deeds in the Cayman Islands. The USB drive contained something even more damaging. Video recordings of Sarah selling Sterling trade secrets to competitors. She'd been sabotaging the company from within for years. But it was the letter with her name that explained everything. Dad's final message to his eldest daughter. Sarah, by the time you read this, you'll think you've won. The company will be yours, just as you always wanted. You'll believe I chose you over Madison. You're wrong. I've known about the embezzlement for months. The traded secrets, the offshore accounts. All of it. I gave you chances to come clean, to prove you could change. You failed every test. The will you think gives you control? It's a trap. The real transfer of power was executed months ago. Everything, the voting shares, operational control, even my board seat, was legally transferred to Madison through a series of blind trusts. Your CEO in name only. The moment you open this safe, those trusts activate. Madison becomes majority shareholder and true CEO of Sterling Innovations. I loved you, Sarah, but I had to protect the company. More importantly, I had to protect your sister from you. The choice is yours now. Resign quietly, return the stolen funds, or face criminal charges. Madison will know what to do. Dad. My phone buzzed. A text from Martha. The board meeting just ended. Sarah's headed to the house. I quickly photographed everything, then replaced it exactly as I'd found it. The front door opened just as I rehung the Monet. What are you doing here? Sarah's voice cracked like a whip. I turned slowly, saying goodbye to Dad's office, since you'll probably redecorate this room too. Get out before I call the police. I walked past her, pausing in the doorway. You should check Dad's safe, by the way. The real one, behind the Monet. Interesting reading material. Her face paled. What are you talking about? Ask Martha for the key. Or better yet, ask her about December 14, 1989. I smiled. Goodbye, Sarah. See you at tomorrow's board meeting. I heard her heels clicking frantically across the floor as I left, knowing she'd find exactly what Dad wanted her to find. In my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number for Sterling Innovations' head of security. Jack. Madison Sterling. I need you to lock down all company servers immediately. Authorization code Victor Echo 9. And put a hold on any transfers from our research accounts. Yes, Miss Sterling, he replied without hesitation. Dad's loyal people were still in place, just as he planned. Next, I called our family lawyer. Mr. Patterson, it's time to execute the Phoenix Protocol. Are you sure? He asked. Once we activate those trusts, there's no going back. I thought about Sarah's face when she fired me, about the years of sabotage, about Dad's final act of protection. I'm sure. My sister needs to learn that some safes hold more than just secrets. They hold justice. Tomorrow would bring chaos, board meetings, legal challenges, perhaps even criminal charges. But for now, I smiled, knowing Dad had outplayed us all. The medical division would survive. Sterling Innovations would thrive. And Sarah? She was about to learn what Dad always taught me. In business, as in life, the truth will always come out. All it takes is the right key, the right safe, and the right moment. The Sterling Innovations boardroom had always reminded me of a gladiator arena. 24 stories up, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city our family had helped build, and a massive oval table where corporate warriors fought their battles. I arrived early, watching the sunrise paint the skyline in shades of gold. Martha had already prepared the room, folders at each seat, coffee service arranged precisely, blinds adjusted to minimize glare. The little details that make big moments work. Security reports Sarah arrived at 5 a.m., Martha said, setting a cup of green tea at my usual spot. She's been in her office making calls all morning. I nodded, picturing my sister's desperation. Any transfers get through? No. The accounts are frozen, just as you ordered. Though she tried, 17 attempts to move funds offshore since midnight. And the board members? All confirmed attending, including Thomas Y. That was crucial. Thomas Y., our largest independent shareholder, had been Sarah's strongest supporter. His vote could swing the entire board. By 8:55 a.m., they began filing in. Board members, legal counsel, even a few shareholders who'd earned the right to attend. Many double-took at my presence, but no one dared comment. The tension in the room could have powered the building. Sarah arrived last, naturally. She'd changed clothes since yesterday. Armani power suit, killer heels, war paint perfect. But her eyes gave her away. They darted around the room like cornered animals, finally fixing on me with pure hatred. "What is she doing here?" she demanded. "Waiting for you to begin the meeting," I replied calmly. "There are some interesting items on today's agenda. You're not on the board anymore. Security." "Actually," Mr. Patterson spoke up from his corner, "Ms. Madison Sterling's presence is required for today's proceedings." He began distributing additional folders. "If everyone could please review the documents before you." Sarah snatched her copy, face growing paler with each page she turned. The room filled with murmurs as others did the same. "This is impossible," she finally spluttered. "These trusts, they can't be legal." "Oh, but they are," I said, standing. "Every transfer, every document, every signature verified and notarized. Dad was very thorough." "Dad was dying," she snapped. "He wasn't thinking clearly." "Actually," Martha stepped forward, "Mr. Sterling began planning this 18 months ago when he first suspected the embezzlement." The room went dead silent. "What embezzlement?" Thomas Y. asked sharply. I nodded to Martha, who activated the presentation screen. Evidence began filling the display. Bank transfers, property records, emails between Sarah and our competitors. $28 million, I announced to the stunned room. Stolen from our medical research division. Our father's private investigation confirmed it all. Lies. Sarah slammed her hands on the table. This is a desperate attempt to what, Sarah? To protect the company? To stop you from selling our trade secrets? I pulled out my phone. Should I play the videos Dad collected? The ones showing you meeting with our competitors? She lunged for the phone, but security was faster. 2 guards materialized beside her, firm but professional. "Miss Sterling," the head of security addressed Sarah, "we need you to remain seated." "This is my company," she shrieked. "I am the CEO." "No," I said quietly. You're not. You never were. The will was a test. Dad's final chance for you to prove you could change. Instead, you showed exactly why he couldn't trust you with his legacy. Thomas Weiss stood up. I moved for an immediate vote of no confidence in Sarah Sterling's leadership. Seconded, another board member quickly added. You can't do this. Sarah's voice cracked. Daddy gave me the company. Dad gave you a choice. I corrected. Return the stolen funds and resign quietly, or face criminal charges. Time to choose, sister. She looked around the room, finding no allies in the faces surrounding her. All these people she charmed and manipulated over the years. Now they saw her true nature. Fine, she spat. You want the money back. Take it. But don't think this means you've won. I'll fight this in court. You'll what? I interrupted. Reveal how you embezzled millions? How you sold company secrets? How you fired the legitimate CEO hours after Dad's funeral? I shook my head. Think carefully about your next move, Sarah. Prison jumpsuits come in designer orange these days. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. There is another option, one your father prepared. He slid a document across the table. Sarah's hands shook as she read it. A full confession in exchange for immunity from prosecution, I explained. Sign it, return every penny you stole, and you can walk away. Keep a small trust fund, even, enough to live comfortably, if not extravagantly. And if I refuse, then I'd press charges. The evidence goes to the SEC, the FBI, and every news outlet in the country. The great Sarah Sterling, brought down by her own greed. Tears smeared her perfect makeup as she stared at the document. For a moment, I saw past the designer armor to the sister I'd once admired, once loved. Was any of it real? I asked softly. Did you ever actually care about the company? About Dad's legacy? I cared about winning, she whispered. That's what Dad taught us, wasn't it? Win at all costs? No, I shook my head. That's what you chose to learn. Dad taught us to innovate, to build, to make things better. You just couldn't see past your own reflection. She picked up the pen, hand trembling slightly. You think you're so perfect, have you? Daddy's real hair? The true Sterling? No, Sarah. I just think I'm the sister who didn't betray everything our family built. The scratch of her signature echoed in the silent room. As soon as she finished, security stepped forward. Please escort Ms. Sarah Sterling from the building, I instructed. Her credentials have already been deactivated. She stood, straightening her designer jacket one last time. Congratulations, little sister. You finally won. This was never about winning, Sarah. It was about protecting what Dad created, what we were supposed to protect together. As the doors closed behind her, Thomas Weiss spoke up. I moved to formally recognize Madison Sterling as CEO and chairperson of Sterling Innovations, effective immediately. The vote was unanimous. Hours later, after the press releases were drafted, the employees notified, and the initial shockwaves had subsided, I stood in Dad's old office, my office now. Martha brought in a box I'd requested from storage. Are you sure about this? She asked as I pulled out the old leather chair, Dad's chair, the one Sarah had discarded. Some things shouldn't change, I said, running my hand over the worn leather. Some legacies deserve to be preserved. I sat down, feeling the weight of responsibility settle around me. On the desk, Dad's old photo still stood, all of us together, before Mom left, before Sarah's ambition poisoned everything, before money and power tore our family apart. Your father would be proud, Martha said softly. He knew, didn't he? All along, he knew it would end this way. She smiled. He knew his daughters, both of them. The one who saw the company as a prize to be won, and the one who saw it as a responsibility to be earned. I picked up the medical division reports. My division, the one Sarah had tried to destroy. The numbers still looked promising. With the stolen funds returned, we could accelerate development, help more people, build something truly meaningful. Martha, I called as she turned to leave. Thank you for everything. Just doing my job, Miss Sterling. Madison, I corrected. After 30 years of keeping my father's secrets, I think you've earned first-name privileges. She nodded, eyes glistening slightly. Welcome home, Madison. That evening, I worked late, just as Dad used to. The city lights twinkled below, each one representing a life, a story, a potential customer or employee or partner. Sterling Innovations didn't belong to Sarah or me. It belonged to all of them. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah, you'll regret this. Family should come first. I typed back, it did. That's why Dad chose me. Then I blocked her number, turned back to my work, and began planning the future of Sterling Innovations. Not as the sister who won, but as the daughter who understood what winning really meant. Sometimes a safe holds more than secrets. Sometimes it holds the truth about who we really are. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice comes with a key, a note, and a father's final lesson about love, trust, and the true meaning of family legacy. The day I discovered what true betrayal felt like, I was sitting at our mahogany dining table, surrounded by college acceptance letters. Harvard, Stanford, MIT. Their prestigious letterheads scattered before me like fallen leaves. My hands trembled as I held the latest one from Princeton, their words of congratulation blurring through my tears. Mom, Dad, I got in. I got into Princeton. My voice echoed through our sprawling Victorian home, a house that had witnessed 3 generations of the Montgomery family's success. My mother's heels clicked against the hardwood floors as she approached, her face bearing an expression I couldn't quite read. Behind her, my father's heavy footsteps followed, his usual confident stride somehow hesitant. That's wonderful, Catherine, my mother said, but her tone carried none of the excitement I'd expected. She exchanged a glance with my father, who cleared his throat and loosened his silk tie. Sit down, Kathy. We need to talk. I sank back into my chair, the acceptance letters still clutched in my hands. Something in their demeanor made my stomach twist into knots. Your brother, William, my father began, his tech startup is showing incredible promise. The prototype he's developed could revolutionize renewable energy storage. He paused, adjusting his glasses. But he needs significant funding to take it to the next level. My mother stepped forward, our manicured fingers trailing along the table's edge. We've decided to invest in his company. It's a remarkable opportunity, one that could secure the family's future for generations. That's great, I said, though uncertainty crept into my voice. But what about my college tuition? The fund you've been saving since I was born. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight pressing against my chest. Catherine, my father said firmly, using my full name. Never a good sign. We've made the decision to use your college fund to support William's venture. It's what's best for the family. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. What? But that was my money. You promised. Don't be selfish, Catherine, my mother cut in sharply. William's project could be worth millions. You can take out student loans like other people do, or maybe consider a local community college for a few years. I stared at them, these people who had raised me, who had always preached about the importance of education, who had spent years encouraging my dreams of attending an Ivy League school. Now they stood before me, calmly destroying those dreams to favor my brother. Again. William had always been their golden child. 4 years older than me, he dropped out of college to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams. While I spent my high school years maintaining a perfect GPA, serving as class president, and winning national science competitions, William bounced from one failed startup to another, each time convincing our parents to invest just a little more. "How much?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What?" my father frowned. "How much of my college fund did you give him?" My mother shifted uncomfortably. "All of it. The full $289,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. Nearly $300,000 gone. Every birthday check from grandparents, every summer job earning, every penny saved for my future, handed over to William without a second thought. I stood up so abruptly my chair toppled backward. "Did you even consider asking me? It's my money." "Catherine Elizabeth Montgomery," my father's voice boomed through the dining room. "That is enough. This decision is final. William's project needs this investment, and as part of this family, you need to support what's best for everyone." "Best for everyone?" I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Or best for William?" "Your brother has vision," my mother said defensively. "He sees opportunities others can't. Sometimes that means taking risks. Risks with my future." I shouted, surprising even myself with the volume. "What about my vision? My opportunities?" My father's face hardened. "If you can't understand the importance of supporting your family's interests, perhaps you're not as mature as we thought. Go to your room until you can discuss this rationally." I stood there, 18 years old, being sent to my room like a child for daring to object to having my future stolen. In that moment, something inside me shifted. A fundamental change in how I saw my family, my place in it, and what I needed to do next. Without another word, I turned and walked upstairs to my room, but instead of collapsing on my bed to cry, as they probably expected, I pulled out my largest backpack and began to pack. Essential clothes, my laptop, the emergency credit card I'd never used, and most importantly, my documents, birth certificate, social security card, passport. My hands moved methodically, my mind surprisingly clear despite the chaos of emotions swirling inside me. From my sock drawer, I retrieved the $200 I'd saved from my last tutoring sessions. Money I hadn't added to my college fund because I'd planned to use it for Princeton merchandise once I got in. Now it would serve a different purpose. As I packed, memories flooded through my mind. William's first failed startup, a social media platform for pets that burned through $50,000 our parents' money. His second attempt, a cryptocurrency that lasted 3 months before collapsing. Each failure met with encouragement, support, and more funding, while I was told to be practical about my dreams. The sound of the doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Through my window, I saw William's Tesla pulling into the driveway. Of course he was here, probably coming to collect his latest handout. I could hear their voices drifting up from below. William's charismatic laugh, my mother's adoring tone, my father's proud rumble. The perfect family moment, complete with their perfect son and his perfect excuses for needing more money. Opening my laptop one last time, I wrote 2 emails. The first to Princeton. "Dear Admissions Committee, with deep regret, I must decline your offer of admission. Due to unexpected financial circumstances, I will be unable to attend Princeton University this fall. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, Catherine Montgomery. The second email went to my parents. Mom and Dad, you've made your choice, and now I'm making mine. Don't look for me. Don't try to contact me. I'll find my own way without the family money or the family name. Catherine. I hit send, then removed the battery from my phone. From downstairs, I could hear William launching into another enthusiastic pitch about his revolutionary technology. In his world of dreams and schemes, $289,000 was probably just another number, just another stepping stone to his imagined success. But for me, it was the last straw. Slinging my backpack over my shoulder, I took one final look at my room, at the debate team trophies, the science fair medals, the honor roll certificates, all evidence of a life spent trying to earn the approval of parents who would always choose William first. I climbed down the trellis outside my window, something I hadn't done since I was 14. My feet hit the ground softly, and without looking back, I walked away from the Montgomery family estate. In my pocket was $200. In my head was a lifetime of straight A's and academic achievements. And in my heart was a burning determination to prove that they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. I didn't know then that 10 years later, I would be sitting across from them in a corporate boardroom, watching them pitch their failing company to potential investors, not realizing that their last hope for salvation was the daughter they had dismissed so easily. But that part of the story would come later. First, I had to build something from nothing. First, I had to become someone they would never expect their practical daughter to be. With each step away from my childhood home, my resolve strengthened. They wanted to bet everything on William. Fine. I would bet everything on myself. And I wouldn't need their $289,000 to do it. The first night of freedom tasted like cheap coffee and desperation. I sat in a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Boston, my backpack tucked securely under my feet, watching my phone battery slowly die. Before it went dark completely, I saw 17 missed calls from my mother, 5 from my father, and 1 text from William. Don't be dramatic, Kathy. Come home. I ordered another coffee, spreading my remaining cash on the laminate table. $178.42. The bus ticket from Connecticut had taken a bigger bite than expected. More coffee, hun? The waitress, Maria, had kind eyes and wore a name tag with 5 gold stars. Thanks, I said, then hesitated. Are you hiring? She looked me over. Pristine college interview clothes, expensive laptop, the obvious signs of a privileged kid playing runaway. But something in my expression must have touched her because she didn't immediately dismiss me. Kitchen help, she said finally. 6 to 2, minimum wage plus tip split. Start tomorrow if you want. I nodded, relief flooding through me. I'll be here. There's a motel down the street, she added, scribbling on her order pad. Tell Jimmy that Maria sent you. He'll give you the weekly rate. That night, in a motel room that smelled of old cigarettes and cleaning supplies, I opened my laptop and began to plan. The Princeton acceptance letter was still in my bag, a reminder of the future I'd just lost. But as I stared at it, an idea began to form. I'd spent my high school years tutoring rich kids in advanced mathematics and sciences. Their parents paid premium rates for my services because I got results. Perfect SAT scores, improved GPAs, early college admissions. I'd always seen it as a way to earn extra money for college. Now, I saw it as the foundation for something bigger. Opening a new document, I began to type. Elite Academic Consulting Specialized Tutoring and College Admissions Guidance founded by a Princeton-accepted scholar. I worked through the night, building a simple website using my coding skills from AP Computer Science. By dawn, I had created professional-looking business cards at an all-night print shop, spending $50 of my precious savings. The next 6 months fell into a grueling routine. From 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., I worked at the diner, learning every aspect of the business I could. Maria, it turned out, had owned the place for 20 years. She taught me about inventory management, staff scheduling, and most importantly, how to read people. From 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., I built my tutoring business. My first client came from a regular at the diner who overheard me helping Maria's daughter with calculus during my break. Word spread quickly among the wealthy suburbs of Boston. There was a young tutor who had gotten into Princeton, but chose to defer, who could explain complex concepts clearly, who guaranteed results. I never mentioned my real last name. Catherine Montgomery became Kate Morgan, and my clients never questioned it. They cared about results, not pedigree. By month 3, I was making enough from tutoring to quit the diner, though I still helped Maria with her books on weekends. She'd become something between a friend and a mentor, teaching me lessons about business that no Ivy League school could match. "You're good with numbers," she said one Sunday, watching me optimize her inventory system. "But you're better with people. That's where real money is made." She was right. My tutoring clients weren't just paying for academic help. They were paying for confidence, for hope, for a chance at the future their children dreamed of. It was something I understood intimately. One day, as I was reviewing a student's college essay, his mother made an offhand comment that would change everything. "If only you could clone yourself. Every parent in Boston would hire you." That night, I couldn't sleep. Clone myself? No, but I could scale. I reached out to other high-achieving students who had gotten into top colleges but chose to take gap years. Many were brilliant, but needed money, just like me. I offered them a proposition: work under my brand, use my methods, and earn 70% of the fees while I handled marketing and client acquisition. Within 2 months, Elite Academic Consulting had 10 tutors. Within 6 months, we had offices in Boston, New York, and Greenwich, Connecticut, though I carefully avoided any locations too close to my family's social circle. My first million came faster than I expected, earned through a combination of the tutoring business and strategic investments in tech stocks. I lived modestly, pouring every spare dollar into expansion. While William was probably still burning through my college fund on his latest venture, I was building something sustainable. But I knew tutoring was just the beginning. Through my wealthy clients, I began to hear whispers about investment opportunities, startups seeking funding, established companies looking for fresh perspectives. I listened, learned, and most importantly, I planned. The breakthrough came during a tutoring session with Emma Chen, daughter of tech mogul James Chen. As I helped her with advanced economics, I noticed the investment prospectus for his company, Chen Tech Solutions, lying open on his home office desk. "Dad's worried," Emma confided during our study break. "The new energy storage project is failing, but he's invested too much to back out now." Energy storage, just like Williams' supposed revolutionary technology. I spent that night researching Chen Tech's project, and by morning, I knew 2 things. First, their approach was fundamentally flawed, and second, I knew how to fix it. It took 3 weeks to get a meeting with James Chen, using every connection I'd built through my tutoring network. When I finally sat across from him in his corner office, he looked amused. "Miss Morgan," he said, "my daughter speaks highly of you. But what makes you think you understand energy storage technology?" I opened my laptop and began my presentation. 4 hours later, he wasn't smiling anymore. Instead, he was offering me a partnership. 30% stake, he said, if you can deliver what you're promising. I countered with 40% and full control of the technical development. He agreed. 6 months later, Chentech's new energy storage system was revolutionizing the industry. The technology that William had dreamed of creating, I had actually built, though under a different name and with a different company. My net worth jumped to 9 figures overnight. But I wasn't done. Using Chentech's success as a springboard, I began acquiring struggling tech companies, particularly in the energy sector. Each acquisition was done through shell companies and holding firms, always keeping the name Catherine Morgan separate from the growing business empire. I hired the best lawyers and accountants to create a labyrinth of corporations that all led back to Morgan Enterprises, my private holding company. To the outside world, Morgan Enterprises was run by a reclusive CEO who never gave interviews or appeared in public. Years passed. My empire grew. I moved from Boston to New York to Silicon Valley, always staying ahead of any chance encounters with my family. Through discreet sources, I kept tabs on them. William's string of failures continued, each one funded by my parents' dwindling resources. The Montgomery family fortune, built over generations, was being bowled dry by their blind faith in their son. Then, one morning in my San Francisco penthouse office, my assistant brought me interesting news. "Montgomery Technologies is looking for investors," she said, placing the report on my desk. "They're on the verge of bankruptcy. Your father is meeting with potential buyers next week." I picked up the report, a smile playing at my lips. After 10 years, everything had come full circle. "Schedule a meeting," I said, "but use the Morgan Enterprises letterhead. Let's see if they recognize the daughter they threw away." It was time to show my family exactly what their practical daughter had become. The Montgomery Technologies building hadn't changed much in 10 years. The same pretentious granite facade, the same gold lettering above the entrance, the same security guard who never looked up from his crossword puzzle. But now, walking through the revolving doors in my Armani suit, I was no longer the teenage girl they had dismissed so easily. "Miss Morgan?" A young assistant hurried forward. "The board is waiting in the main conference room. May I take your coat?" I handed her my coat, suppressing a smile. My mother had always insisted that true power dressed in designer labels. Today, I wore enough worth of clothing to fund one of William's failed startups. "Coffee?" the assistant asked. "Green tea," I replied, remembering how my mother used to mock my preference for tea over coffee. Proper brewing time, no sugar. The elevator ride to the top floor gave me time to center myself. 10 years of preparation had led to this moment. Through my network of shell companies and discrete investments, I had systematically acquired Montgomery Technologies' debt, positioned myself as their only viable lifeline, and now held their fate in my hands. The conference room doors opened to reveal a scene that almost made me laugh. My father, Robert Montgomery, sat at the head of the table, though that position would soon be mine. My mother, Elizabeth, perched beside him, her perfect posture betraying her anxiety. And William, my dear brother who had burned through my college fund and much of the family fortune, slouched in his chair, tapping away at his phone. Miss Morgan, my father stood, extending his hand. Thank you for coming. We've heard remarkable things about Morgan Enterprises. I shook his hand firmly, noting the slight tremor in his grip. The great Robert Montgomery was nervous. Good. Please, I gestured for him to sit. Let's discuss why we're here. For the next hour, I listened as they presented Montgomery Technology's current situation. The company needed a $50 million cash injection just to stay afloat. Their stock had plummeted 70% in the last quarter. And Williams' latest venture, another attempt at revolutionary energy storage technology, had drained their remaining reserves. We believe with proper investment, my father continued, his voice carrying that same persuasive tone he'd used when telling me to be practical about my dreams, Montgomery Technologies could return to its former glory. I opened my laptop, displaying a series of graphs on the conference room screen. Your company's decline began approximately 10 years ago, I said, watching their faces carefully, coinciding with a series of interesting investment decisions. William shifted uncomfortably. My mother's perfectly manicured fingers drummed against the table. We took some calculated risks, my father defended. Calculated? I raised an eyebrow. Like investing $289,000 in an unproven energy storage concept. The room fell silent. That specific number, the exact amount of my stolen college fund, hung in the air like an accusation. How did you? William started, then caught himself. I stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city. Tell me, Mr. Montgomery, what would you say was your biggest mistake in business? My father cleared his throat. Perhaps expanding too quickly in certain markets. No, I cut him off, turning to face them. Your biggest mistake was sitting in this room 10 years ago, thinking she would just accept your decision and fade into the background. The color drained from my mother's face. William's phone clattered to the table. My father's expression froze in dawning recognition. Catherine? I smiled, savoring the moment. Hello, Dad. Mom. William. It's been a while. This is impossible, William sputtered. You're Catherine Morgan? Actually, it's Catherine Montgomery Morgan now, legally changed. I sat back down, enjoying their shocked expressions. But you'd know that if you'd bothered to look for me these past 10 years. My mother found her voice first. Darling, we tried to find you. No, I cut her off. You half-heartedly called around for a few weeks, then decided I was being dramatic and would come home when I ran out of money. I looked at William. How did that energy storage technology work out, by the way? The one you needed my college fund for? He flushed red. There were unexpected complications. Funny, I interrupted again, pulling up another presentation. Because Morgan Enterprises' subsidiary, Chentech Solutions, seems to have solved those complications quite successfully. I displayed the schematics of the energy storage system I'd helped develop, the one that had made me my first billion. My father's business instincts finally kicked in. You own Chentech? Among other things. I began listing companies on the screen. Chentech Solutions, Elite Academic Consulting, Morgan Global Ventures, and as of last month, approximately 40% of Montgomery Technology's outstanding debt. The room spun into chaos. William jumped up, knocking over his chair. My mother pressed her hands to her face. My father just stared, his empire crumbling before his eyes. Why? He finally asked. Why not just tell us who you were? I leaned forward, meeting his gaze. Because you needed to see me as you truly are. not as parents facing their daughter, but as failing business people facing someone more successful than they ever imagined I could be. "What do you want?" William demanded. "Revenge?" I laughed. "Revenge? Brother dear, if I wanted revenge, I would have bought this company 6 months ago and fired you all immediately." I stood, straightening my suit. "No. What I want is to fix what you broke." "What does that mean?" My mother asked quietly. "It means I'm offering to save Montgomery Technologies. Full debt restructuring, capital injection, and technological partnership with Chintech Solutions." I paused, letting that sink in. "But there are conditions." My father's business mask slipped back into place. "What conditions?" "First, William is out. No more positions, no more investment in his ventures, no more draining company resources." William started to protest, but my father silenced him with a look. "Second, you and Mom retire, Dad. The company needs new leadership, not nostalgic devotion to failed strategies." "And third?" my mother asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Third," I smiled, "you all admit that sending me away was the best thing you ever did for me. Because everything I built without the Montgomery name, without the family connections, and without your money." Silence fell over the room. My father looked at the empire I'd built, displayed on the screen behind me. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Whether from pride or regret, I couldn't tell. William slumped in his chair, finally confronting the reality that his younger sister had achieved everything he'd failed to do. "Do we have a deal?" I asked, knowing the answer before they spoke. My father nodded slowly. "We do, Miss Morgan." "Good." I gathered my things, preparing to leave. "The papers will be drawn up by tomorrow. Oh, and Mom." I paused at the door. "The local community college you suggested. They're one of my charitable foundation's biggest beneficiaries now. Turns out practical decisions can lead to extraordinary results." I walked out of the conference room, out of the building that had once represented everything I couldn't have, and into the waiting car where Maria, my first boss, now my company's chief operating officer, waited. "How did it go?" she asked, handing me a perfectly brewed green tea. "Exactly as planned," I replied, taking a sip. "Though I think I'll keep the diner story out of the official company history." She laughed. "Are you sure about this? Saving their company after everything they did?" I looked back at the Montgomery Technologies building, thinking about the scared 18-year-old girl who had left home with just $200 and a determination to prove herself. "You know what I learned in that diner, Maria? Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what others built. It's building something so much greater that they're forced to acknowledge their own mistakes." "And did they?" I smiled, thinking of my father's face when he realized who I was, of my mother's tears, of William's final defeat. They will. Every time they see the new company letterhead, Montgomery Morgan Technologies. "You're keeping the Montgomery name." "Of course," I said, opening my laptop to check the markets. After all, I did promise to support the family business. I just did it my way. As we drove through the city, past the skyscrapers and offices that had once seemed so far out of reach, I thought about that acceptance letter to Princeton, still preserved in my office. I had framed it alongside my first business license, my first $1 million contract, and a simple name tag that read Kate, server, from a certain 24-hour diner. Sometimes the best future isn't the one that's planned for you, but the one you build for yourself, $1 at a time, one dream at a time, one victory at a time. And sometimes, just sometimes, $200 and an unwavering belief in yourself is worth more than all the family fortunes in the world.